And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom,
He's Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. Thank you for spending your Black Friday with us on ESPN Radio. You can always stream us live or get the latest episode at jalenandjacoby.com. You can always find us on the very helpful and informative and entertaining ESPN app. We're on Sirius XM Channel 80, one channel from
81.
We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests appear via the Subway Fresh Take hotline. Get in touch with us through our 1-800-FLOWERS Twitter feed at Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen!
Was it third base that said, because I heard you just say Black Friday, was it third base that said Black Cat is bad luck? Bad guys were black. Must have been a white guy who started all that. Got to give the people give the people what they want.
Jalen Rose. You know what we're going to talk about. We're excited to have everyone join us on this hour, 8 to 9 on the East Coast and 5 to 6 on the West Coast. We will try not to spend the entire hour talking about this, but there is so much to discuss and unpack in regards to the events from Wednesday night, early Thursday morning in Boston, outside of a bar. Jahlil Okafor got into an argument which led to a physical situation which led to him punching someone in the face. It was all filmed. And then we'll talk about exactly how it gets to TMZ, and then it ends up on TMZ. Jalen, you just watched the video. You've obviously been keeping in touch with us, this story. What do you think when you first hear it?
It's strong because not that I'm surprised that a 19-year-old will be at the club. Been there, done that. Not surprised that a 19-year-old was at a club fighting. Been there, done that. Eastern Michigan. Spaghetti bender. I tore that place up. Okay. Not proud of it. The thing that's disturbing about all of this is that it could have been really worse. And what I mean by that is when you get into a street fight, it's just that. There are no rules. Like, one thing you fighting on the court, you can hold me back, and you know that there are no weapons involved. You know that it's your peers. You know that there's a level usually that people won't take it to. This also falls on the Philadelphia 76ers. I've spent a lot of time around Jahlil Okafor. While he was in high school, McDonald's All-American game. While he was at Duke, they're the defending national champions. Before and after the draft. Him, his family, the draft class. So I have a really good pulse on how and what makes him tick. And so a couple of things about the video. It's 2 a.m. I'm not in any way, shape, or form going to be the person to try to give young people curfew. But what I will say, and I talk about a lot on this pod, is that's where veterans need to be in an NBA locker room. Because you have other 19 to 25-year-olds trying to show each other how to be a pro and how to be a vet and how to deal with adversity, how to have practice habits, how to deal with the media. In cases like this, how to deal with unruly fans.
But you do have to look at the behavior of Jahlil Okafor in this incident, and there are so many ways he could have handled himself differently, and there is not just one bad decision to get into this physical altercation. There's like an accelerating like 3 or 4 bad decisions. I just want to start at the very beginning. Now, it's been reported that the heckler essentially said that the 76ers suck, right? And that's basically what he said, right? And if you are going to get into a verbal altercation and you're going to take it personally and attack somebody verbally every time they tell you that your team isn't good, when your team is by design not good, there's going to be a never-ending list of fistfights that you're going to get in. He has to show better way to handle someone telling him that he sucks, because as you know, it's never going to end.
When you're 19, you have rabbit ears. That's what makes players like LeBron James special, is that the spotlight was so bright, yet he exceeded expectations, and he always seems to be responsible, respectful, and disciplined. Even through the decision, how poorly that was handled, and ignoring, in theory, what Dan Gilbert had to say about him leaving, the letter he wrote and said, I'm bigger than all of that. Guess what I feel like doing? I feel like going back to Cleveland in my 35,000 square foot home. And it's tough at 19 being on a team that's 0-16, the first team in NBA history to start the season this poor in the history of the league. Yes, you're going to get heckled. But this is the other thing that he will learn from this. It's not necessarily heckling, catch this, when it's true. And you know what else? They do stink. They are the worst team in the NBA. They do have one of the worst franchises in sports currently. All things he can't control.
So instead of ignoring this person, and believe me, I grew up in Massachusetts. I know all about the area. I know all about going out at night in Boston. I've done it so many times. And people are going to say things about you like that, especially when you have his stature and you have his fame and you're on a team that is famously terrible. But the second you hear, oh, the Sixers suck, you're never going to win a game, you can't just go straight cube.
Oh, we got a problem here?
And then just start reacting. You know what I mean? The appropriate response is just pretend like it didn't happen, pretend you didn't hear it. Yes, you are being disrespected, and I understand that. But you do not have to react. You don't have to let your pride dictate your actions and then escalate the situation. But then his actual response was, "Oh, you're broke and I've got money." That's what he says. He's like, "Oh," and he uses some stronger words than that. "You're broke and I've got money," right? Come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's where you're going to take it.
And also, too, that's where maturity comes in. I stopped using the N-word in the early 2000s. The same time I stopped cursing. And so why did I do it? Because I clearly did, because I had to stop. You know, a lot of times when people say, our race has taken that word and turned it into a positive. And true, that has happened with the A at the end instead of the ER. But the one thing I caution is, if you don't want someone saying that to you, you probably shouldn't say it. So that's why I stopped. And I'm talking about of any race. Mm-hmm. And also I learned that word that starts with an N and ends with an S is sagging spelled backwards. And when I got that knowledge, it made me think of the teammate that I saw holding him back. I saw his underwear.
Reportedly Christian
another young
Wood.
Cat. And again, here's another thing. We got money. Also, what I learned is that people who have real money, they never talk about it. They don't want it to be a subject of conversation. They don't necessarily want you to know they have it. They don't want to wear it all of the time. They don't have to feel like they have to have the most expensive of everything. A lot of times they're sitting right next to you and you don't even know it. But when you're a 6'11" NBA player, not only do people know what you have, but you can't hide. And so that part is something that he'll grow and mature to get past. Also with the rabbit ears portion of it. But also, he lucky. Because you talked about going out in Boston. You could be out anywhere. And that second dude that was hitting him on the back in the street, he could have had a knife.
Well,
he could have had a blade.
It's not just that. Is someone who has also seen his fair share of sort of hand-to-hand combat in the streets outside of drinking establishments. It can go left so fast. If the person that he punched, if their head, they did not break their fall and their head hit the concrete, there can be very, very dangerous repercussions that he could be looking at. At first, there were no charges. Police didn't do anything about it. But you put yourself in the shoes of this guy, right, who allegedly was heckling Jahlil Okafor and then got punched in the face. When he goes home and talks to his friends, what does he tell them happened? You know what I mean? Because everyone's got their pride. He can't say to his friends, like, oh, I said the wrong thing to the wrong guy and then I lost a fight. So he kind of feels like, oh, I've got to do something. And one of his friends says, why don't you press charges? And, of course, Friday morning, he pressed charges. And now police are investigating. And this is going to spin really bad for Okafor.
Well, this is what I don't like. You know, a lot of time they're Twitter trolls and you know, broadband bullies, and people say things that they wouldn't necessarily say to you in your face. This guy is 6'11". This guy is 270 pounds. And looking at the guys that he was fighting, both of them together aren't bigger than him. So while this fan, in theory, was assaulted and does have the obligation to press charges, what I don't like is what he did ends up probably being the best thing that ever happened to him financially.
He's going to get
by
paid.
heckling Jahlil Okafor.
He's going to get paid by instigating Jahlil Okafor into assaulting him. That's exactly what's going to happen. And part of it is like, I'm sure this guy, he's probably just drunk. He's walking by, he's saying something. Jahlil Okafor needs to just let it slide. He needs to just learn enough to let it slide. I saw the video. His friends were kind of dragging him the other direction, kind of like hinting at him, like, come on, man, like, don't worry about that. Let's just get in the car. Don't worry about it. Let's just get in the car. And he didn't get in the car. And it was a hold me back moment.
Well, he snapped.
He was a hold me back moment, but you have to understand, if you're trying to hold Jahlil Okafor back, like, you're going to have to really do it. Because he broke free and then punched somebody.
Again, I just hate that this probably is going to be the best thing that ever happened for that fan financially by heckling. And by the way, we using the term heckle, but when you scream things at people that you know they don't like, that's actually called bullying. You can actually verbally abuse somebody. Now, this to me, brush off your shoulder. The team stinks. I've been on bad teams. I've been on really good teams. Whether you're in the gym, whether you're at the restaurant, whether you're at the spot, when you're the person that has the most to lose, that's when you have to be cautious. And it's not just playing on a bad team. You're a target when you have the best table, you're looking like you're having the most fun.
You have the most women around.
You're getting the most attention. And those testosterone-driven moments when you're out, for example, at the strip club, you want to make it rain, but you know what? The dollars you just threw, they hit the guy over there at the other table that probably is going to need help paying his light bill if he doesn't leave soon. He's not happy that you're making it rain and your money hitting him. So when you're out, you have to be cautious and you have to be humble. You have to respect others. Excuse me, please, thank you. What up, though? And keep it moving, because a lot of people have hostility towards you just because you're successful. I've seen that happen in our country, and here's one perfect example. When we used to talk about how collegiate athletes should get paid in the early 90s a stipend, people used to be like, oh, just shut up and be happy you're on scholarship. What are you like? I wish I was on scholarship. I wish I had somebody paying for my school. I wish I didn't have these student loans. Well, talented people get concessions in this country. That's how it works. And when I'm playing collegiate basketball, that means somebody came to my home to recruit me. That means I have an elite talent. So he's going to learn from this. He's going to be suspended by the league. He's going to be fined. He's going to be sued. And he's still got to play on the team that stinks. So this is just going to be one of those years that he's going to have to charge it to the game. Now, when I'm working next year's draft, and when it comes out that a player doesn't want to go to Philly, like it happened this year with he and Towns, the whispers were, man, let me tell you something. I ain't trying to be in Philly.
Why would you want to go to Philly?
People vilified him. Now you see why. Because it extends more than just what happens in the 48 minutes on the court.
Here's what he said about the incident. It was definitely dumb on my part. It's something that I'm embarrassed about. And he added that he was, quote, still dealing with the league and the team, but I'm not happy about it at all. But we are still going through the process of what we're going to do. There's a couple things I want to bring up to you. The first thing is, if you, Jalen Rose, got into a physical altercation with every single person that said something negative about you, around you, or to your face, you would never stop fighting people. You know what I mean? Like, at some point you have to understand that you just can't do that.
And also, I'm 42 years old, and over a period of your life, that's where the maturity comes in, that how do you deal with your naysayers and your critics? Whether fortunate or unfortunate for me, I remember critics since I started walking, okay? People criticize me for everything. You know, I have a spot on the back of my ear. I was skinny. I had bad skin. I had bad teeth. I came from a poor household. Sometimes I had patches on my hand, on my pants. Sometimes I had old shoes. That's why I have corns on my feet, because I was wearing a size 8, but the shoes were a 6. So for me, I got a chance to develop tough skin early because I'm like, just what you said. If I'm going to allow people to get in the way of my goals, my dreams, or my aspirations by doubting me, I'm actually weak. I'm the fool. So I learned to block people out. Again, people come into your life for 4 reasons: to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I haven't changed my number in 15 years. And if somebody's not calling to add and multiply, as soon as I hear their voice, I just press 7.
Real quick
because
question.
I don't want anything to come in my head and heart that could be a distraction or be negative.
Real quick question. What punishment do you think he will receive from the league?
5 games.
Really? You think this is a 5-game suspension?
He'll get 5 games.
Yesterday was about family, and it was about fun, and it was about football. So let's briefly go through some of the games, starting with your Lions. Actually looking good. Anyone who's been listening to this Jalen and Jacoby podcast for years now knows that when the Lions are halfway decent, Jalen starts breaking out the the lion roar. And you haven't done it once. That's the first lion roar for about 10 months out of you.
And here's the thing, and I love my squad. I remember we were 8 and 8 in the 80s. Wayne Spence was our coach, and we were singing "Another One Bites the Dust" like we were 16-0. But we'll get a Super Bowl one day. But we look good on. See, y'all look at this as a Thanksgiving Day game in Detroit. I tell you, that is our Super Bowl.
Because it's the biggest game of the year because you don't make the playoffs. It's the biggest game of the year because you don't make the playoffs.
Hey,
and
man.
you went up against an Eagles team that just, I mean, did the Lions look good or did the Eagles look bad? Let's just be honest. Let's just be real.
Well, the Lions won 3 straight, and people thought the Raiders were about something too, and we thumped them. But here's what I will say. The Lions on Thanksgiving Day, the world is lucky I can't bet on this stuff, or I choose not to bet on this stuff. Because I would have bet everything I own that the Lions would have won yesterday.
Talking about
That's
3
how
straight.
confident
the Lions
I
are
was.
4-7 and going nowhere. It's more interesting teams, relevant.
And you saw my,
more
and
relevant
also you saw,
teams.
and also you saw my little brother Big Sean representing too. I'm gonna have to get him on the show. I'm gonna have to get him to come in when we get a 3rd seat and come join the show. He killed it. I love the halftime performance. Big shout, little Big Sean, always giving back to the community, and he was at the JRLA graduation.
The Panthers and the Cowboys. Everyone's talking about Romo getting injured, but I mean, like, that's not the story. The story.
Cam
Just keeps doing it. Looking so good, having so much fun. Now he's doing dances from the 50s. He's like, all right, well, now that everyone's dabbing now, let me just break out the swim move.
Exactly.
You know, he's just having so much fun playing football. The Panthers I can see them not lose. I can't believe I'm even saying this. I can see them going undefeated. You look at who they had to play, Jalen. Listen, Saints, Falcons, Giants, Falcons, Bucks. It can happen. This can happen.
One of those Giants games would be tough.
There's 2 Falcons, 1 Giant. The Giants game does stick out.
The Giants game sticks out. That could be a one. But here's the thing. I appreciate a blue-collar approach that they play with. A lot of 2 tight end sets, a lot of snap it to the quarterback, off-tackle runs. Cam Newton is revolutionizing what we see from an NFL quarterback. He's a football player that just happens to receive the snap every play. The guy, when you were playing street football, that was faster than everybody, so he could be the receiver, then he could be D-back, then he could play quarterback. That's Cam. And it's really refreshing to watch him play. And you said it. They have a legit chance to go undefeated. Pick 6 in the first series of the Dallas Cowboys. And what about all of these people that felt like, by the way, this just first off, it's an incrimination of the NFC least that people was talking about the Dallas Cowboys, a team that lost 7 straight games, could run the table.
Making the
Here's
playoffs.
News flash for everybody out there. When you lose 7 games, you're not a good football team.
And
I don't care who they're getting back.
Yeah, exactly. One player's not going to change all that.
Correct. You're not a good football team. I hate to see Romo get hurt, but again, that Carolina beatdown, the way they got crushed, it's all about Carolina, has nothing to do with the Cowboys.
If you're a Cowboys fan, here's the silver lining. Yes, Tony Romo got hurt, but his injury was a crack collarbone where he injured it before, and it was not a devastating injury. It's enough to sideline him for the rest of the season, but he will be 100%. You know what I mean? Like newsflash, you're not going to make the playoffs with or without Tony Romo. So this is actually not the worst case scenario as a Cowboys fan. This season's a wash.
Well, the thing that is bad, though, Jacoby, is that athletes, people think because they're in supernatural shape to play their sport, that they heal faster. Like one time I would love to put the game of operation up on the board and break down a player that's dealt with a lot of injuries frequently, say like a Derrick Rose, now even a Tony Romo. When you get hurt, think about it when you're watching boxing and at the end of a round, they show where the punches landed. That's the same thing when you're an athlete. When you get bruised, when you get hurt, when you get injured, when you have surgery, that's a chink in your armor. And for a quarterback to continue to have issues with his arm, his shoulders, that can be problematic moving forward.
The last game was the most entertaining game because it was close. The first 2 were blowouts. The Packers losing at home on the night when they retired Brett Favre's jersey and brought him out in the rain and brought Bart Starr out, could not muster a second-half comeback when it was available to them, and the Bears ended up on top.
This is all about the Bears. I know the Packs have struggled recently, and Eddie Lacy has gotten it going the last 2 weeks. He played really well. The Bears have found a way to play professional football, show up for work, and actually be competitive. And I give Jay Cutler a lot of credit for fighting through a lot of times what are and should be in most cases his critics. But just the team as a whole, the way that they continue to compete against the Packers, it was a really good win versus a division foe against their rival on a big night. Normally when you celebrating stuff like it's a homecoming, it's a team you expect to beat.
Yes, yes.
You don't do the homecoming and then you think you're going to get thumped.
When the Patriots come to town. Yeah,
so for the Bears, yes, indeed. So for the Bears to show up and play the way they did, applaud them. But also, Aaron Rodgers has struggled. That team's offense has struggled. I know they were without Jordy Nelson. But for them to play as bad as they have has been a surprise.
Jalen, one of the people that you are absolutely in love with, that I think is one of the habitual line steppers that we always talk about, seems like we can't get through 7 days without getting into some sort of trouble. It just seems to find him. It just seems to find him. The latest installation of the Boogie habitual line stepping was on Wednesday night against the Bucs. In the same game in which Jason Kidd had one steal as the head coach. He got a steal. He stole the ball from the referee, slapped it out of his hand, got suspended one game. Boogie and O.J. Mayo sort of went toe-to-toe and had a little conversation, it looked like. Boogie wasn't playing in the game. And then as the final horn blew, Boogie points to the tunnel. O.J. Mayo points to the tunnel with a gesture that's like, hey, meet me outside. Like DMX, basically. Meet me outside. And allegedly, there was a skirmish. Some security was involved, and there was sort of no physical altercation. But they had the tunnel beef, which is known as a classic NBA move. Why is Boogie always at the center of all of this, Jalen?
All I know is this. At the beginning of the segment, we said Boogie's name. The question had Boogie's name, but all of the actions were from O.J. Mayo. You said he was the one.
You will defend this man no matter what. Like, seriously.
I got to give the folks some history, okay? Both of the gentlemen involved have been in altercations directly or indirectly before.
There was
O.J. Mayo in the past with Tony Allen when he allegedly ate a two-piece with a biscuit. Also in the past, Mayo said that Cousins had mental issues. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but when somebody says something like that about me, that's my peer, I'm not going to take it too kindly. Boogie wasn't playing. How many times have you watched an NBA game when somebody makes a shot from the corner and they turn around and look at the bench and yell something? Because people on the bench are always yelling things at the guys in the game.
Of course.
Now, one other point. I just want to do the tail of the tape. O.J. Mayo, perimeter player, shooting guard, 6'4". Probably last year he was 250. This year he's probably 220, 215, whatever he is. I just want to introduce you to something. Boogie 6'11", 270. I don't know about you, but I normally don't pick problems with a guy that's 2 times bigger than me. Unless I'm going to point to the tunnel where everybody knows we're going.
Where everybody knows there's security
in the tunnel.
Exactly.
Where
Nothing's
teammates in
gonna
the
happen.
tunnel. Where my family's in the tunnel.
How many
my
times?
wife and kids in the tunnel.
It's always there were harsh words for each other in the tunnel. It's never they went to blows in the tunnel. It's never the story. It's always just like they had to be separated in the tunnel. They had words for each other in the tunnel. I mean it's never really that much of a thing. But we will continue to check in on throughout the year. Next up.
And one thing we didn't say is Sacramento won the game.
Rondo's been playing well, but that's neither here nor there. Dwight Howard, you've been talking about resting on back-to-backs. Finally, he now says
They want it back-to-back.
He said, I'm ready to play in back-to-backs, ladies and gentlemen. Dwight Howard has the physical capability to play in 2 basketball games in 2 nights. Your thoughts, Mr. Rose?
I will say that he's dealt with back issues the last couple of years. And I temper what I say when I know a guy's had surgery versus when a guy's hurt. And he's had surgery. And last year, he also dealt with the same issues. So they wanted to ease him into the season slow. Back-to-backs, for those that have not played in them, they are taxing on a human being's body. That's why the NBA is trying to do what they can to alleviate as many back-to-backs as possible.
They want it back-to-back.
2 full basketball games in less than 24 hours. Remember, one game doesn't end until like 10 p.m., where you're playing the next game at 7 the next night. That's not even 24 hours of recovery. You remember growing up when we felt, wow, football players need that week's rest before they play Sunday and then before they play the next Sunday. Then the NFL saw the Lions and saw the Cowboys playing on Thursday all of these 50 years and said, you know what? They can do it. Just because they're doing it, however, it does not mean that it's good for the human body. I'm still against football players playing on Sunday and then turning around and playing 3 days later. Those are car accidents out there happening.
You know who won't be playing on Sunday? Another habitual line stepper, Johnny Manziel, because it has just been released that he lied about when the video was taken to the Browns that we've discussed a lot. Let me just say this. Anyone who watched the video that knows anything about the song that was released knows that that was from recently. It was released from this season. And he knew every single word of a song that was out in March. But of course he told all his friends to lie about it. And it was all big cover-up. And I just want to say that if you are caught doing something you shouldn't do, just own it. Because the cover-up is always worse than the crime.
What's Charlie Murphy?
He's a habitual
when we really need
line
him.
stepper.
Here's the thing about Manziel. You're an NFL quarterback. Stop trying to act like you want to be in a rap video.
He's a habitual line stepper.
Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole remixed each other's songs, just kind of like did a verse on someone else's beat, and just released it on Black Friday for free. I encourage these kind of things. I really encourage these kind of behavior.
That is dope. That is dope. Those are also two gentlemen that I would love to have on the show.
Oh, so now you just want guests. Now we're going to open up the guest list. Is that what's happening?
No, they on the VIP though. Like certain guys that's on the VIP list.
Before it was Obama and Halle Berry, and that was it.
I like that they did that. That's real dope. Bringing real lyrics back. And big shout out to Pusha T because he don't sing on hooks.